Hi everyone and welcome to another episode of Home Coffee Brewing with April. This time I'm in Seoul in South Korea and I'm meeting up with Iohan that lives behind me here. So come in and have a look and let's brew some coffee. Awesome. So we're on the inside, we're in Seoul and we're brewing coffee.
Yep.
Yeah. What kind of coffee are we brewing?
We're brewing a iced coffee today.
We're brewing iced coffee because it's -degrees in Seoul, so therefore we're doing
perfect weather for iced coffee.
Yeah.
So I usually brew coffee at home for my wife mainly.
Yeah.
I don't really drink iced coffee very much, but she mainly drinks iced coffee.
Yeah. And for those of you that haven't been in Korea before or Seoul before, you're gonna see a lot of people running around with iced Americanos.
In the winter.
Like in the winter time. It's like snow or whatever, and it's like everyone is drinking cold coffee. So it's a bit of a fascinating thing, but it's also really fun to try out, right?
Yep.
So let's do it. Why not? What are the beans we're using?
So today we're using a coffee over here, which is
a coffee over here
from Coffee County.
Coffee County, and Coffee County is
It's a roaster based out of Fukuoka in Japan. So this is a Cup of Excellence 23rd place last year. Not that it matters very much.
23rd place. Okay, so for those of you that don't know, Cup of Excellence International green coffee competition.
Yep.
This is from Peru. 23 basically means that you made it into the international part of the competition. Exactly. But then you didn't end up very high, but you're still in the competition, which means it's a good coffee.
But it's a very nice. I think it's half or a blend of yellow and red cassia in the farm, and it's a fully washed coffee.
Fully washed coffee, and the farm name is La Margarita.
Yes.
Not to confuse with something similar in Colombia, for example.
Yes.
Okay, super cool. It says we're gonna get a lot of stuff. It says we're gonna get jasmine, muscat, mandarin, yellow peach, bergamot, brown sugar, Darjeeling, and it's elegant. So coffee can do a lot of flavor notes. Yeah.
Like a very detailed description, which is okay.
Yeah. I mean, flavor notes are really interesting, right? And we had some roasteries in the past in the series that actually didn't have any flavor notes.
Which I actually kind of prefer that.
You prefer that?
Yeah, I don't really look at this is probably my first time hearing the flavor notes.
Ah, okay, so you have an issue. So it's not like as a brewer, you're not going, okay, the roastery is telling me it should taste like this.
No.
I'm gonna try to make it taste like this.
No.
Okay.
I think I usually just look at variety and processing because I know what varieties I kind of like drinking.
Yeah.
And
is that because you don't trust roasteries in general with flavor notes?
Yes.
Okay.
Also that, but
Which is fair enough.
I think in the general sense of things, it gets you in the boat. Like if you just read the first three ones, it's pretty accurate, right?
Jasmine, muscat, mandarin. So like a little bit of citrus, a little bit of floral, a little bit of muscat, like spicy.
Yeah, exactly. And brown sugar, it's maybe slightly like light medium, so it'll be a bit sweeter.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. Let's start brewing, right? Do your thing, and then let's see what we're gonna end up with.
I boil all my water on the stove.
On the stove, yeah. And this is fellow, yes.
This is like an old fellow copper kettle, I think.
Old fellow copper kettle. I actually haven't seen one of these in use, I think.
It is not like, I wouldn't recommend it in general. It loses.
But I have it. I just don't recommend it. Okay,
I got it as a gift. But it's very nice. Okay. It looks very nice.
It looks very nice.
But it loses heat really fast. Okay. It's very conductive.
No, sure. The material must be. I got it. That's true.
Yeah. So.
And here you're quite precise. You just poured a bunch of water into the kettle and you're measuring it on the scale.
Yes, I'm clearly not very precise because I overshot by a bit. So usually I use Lotus for home. So this is like a mineral solution.
Okay, awesome.
I use this to just, by the way, work at the April store.
Yeah, sure.
So in Seoul, we make the water there as well. I use this to dial in the recipe as well. Because this is very easy to do like one recipe.
Yeah.
And then we just scale it up.
Yeah.
Without this, because
that's really cool.
Drops.
And that's easy. I haven't really experienced. I have it, but I haven't quite started to use it. Mm-hmm. But this is like, let's say, next level game of water for homebrewing, right? Because we've seen a lot of people using like bottled water. I guess you're using like almost a distilled-ish water here now.
This is actually a bit of a. I have a large jug of distilled water somewhere else. I just filled it into this, so it is distilled water.
So distilled water, and then basically adding a bunch of minerals, right? So. Yep. I guess you're gonna tell us how many minerals you're using, maybe.
More or less. So this is you can control calcium, magnesium, and the two bicarbs they have, which is sodium and potassium.
Yeah.
So I guess starting with bicarb, I usually like having 25 ppm.
Yep.
We use that in the shop too, and I think that just generally tastes quite nice.
Sure, yeah.
So I'll split that as sodium will be hopefully 2, if I can do that. And the whole
So
point...
when you say 2, you mean 2 drops? Or...
Yes.
Okay.
So the whole point of the Lotus system, as far as I understand, is that they have calibrated the droppers to a certain amount of ppm for 450 ml of water.
Ah, okay. Cool.
You can calculate that out as well. And I do 3 of these, and that's because the alkalinity is 5 ppm, I believe.
Yep.
Maybe I'm wrong and I'm adding 50 ppm.
Fair enough. And I should say, if you are like really nerdy like this and take water to the next level, then make sure you kind of know what you're doing, because you can also make your coffee worse, right? One of the things I sometimes do is that if I have coffees, because we just filter the waters in Copenhagen, but if I have coffees that are like maybe a bit acidic, lose a little bit of body, I can add a bit of magnesium just into that water, and that buffers up a little bit, and then it gets a bit sweeter, right? So these kind of minerals are super fun to play with. They're kind of the next level stuff, but it's also, I think Lotus made it really easy at home.
That's the only reason. Otherwise, I wouldn't be using this at home, honestly. So this is calcium. We do, I think, 3 of those. And then we'll do 4 magnesium. So it'll be a 40-30 split. So these are 10 for each drop.
Yeah, sure.
I think.
You think? Okay.
Otherwise, this is all wrong.
We're going to try this, and then we're going to taste it, and then we'll see what comes out. YouTube have a tendency of telling you...
Everyone will correct me if I'm wrong, which is great.
We're going to try this. I'm just fascinated that you're actually doing this at home, which is really cool. I don't do this at home. At least not individual minerals, right?
No. I mean...
I appreciate the effort.
It really depends, I guess, on what mood I'm in. Sometimes I'll just use bottled water if I'm very lazy.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Do you have any like bottled water in Korea to recommend? Just like one that works if they're in Seoul?
I think for us the best one is probably, it's called Pyeongchangsu.
Okay.
We
write that somewhere so you can
we write that down. But there's also if you search that on Naver, there will be like 100 people telling you specifically which Pyeongchangsu you're supposed to get. So they get from different sources, and that's how it works.
Fair enough.
And I'm going to just leave this to heat up to 94 degrees in this case.
Yep.
I usually, whenever I do water temperature, I usually just follow the roaster's instructions, because I think they're usually pretty aware of what temperature their coffee should be brewed at. I don't think they have anything here.
No, but they told you maybe?
I believe I asked in the shop when they brewed some iced Kenyan coffee for me. Yep. But I think in general for hot coffee, they actually brew quite a lot colder.
Yeah.
They probably brew at like 88 to 90 degrees, I think.
Okay.
As a lot of, I think, Japanese roasteries do.
Sure, a little bit lower, yeah. And I would say this is also like a fairly light roasted coffee.
They do a pretty broad range, but this is on the lighter end of their stuff, I would say.
Sure, yeah.
But they do really good stuff. Another friend really likes them, so we always get it sent. This time I actually went there and got it. So.
Which is perfect, because then you can kind of talk a little bit with them as well, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's just a nice roastery. They opened a shop in Tokyo now as well, I think. And I can't remember what their accolades were, but I think it's one of the Japanese roasting champions of some year. It's the other one. And it's just from yesterday on, you were just out.
I was about to say we're going to cut this out, but let's not cut this out, because this happens to me at least like once a week, because I have this tendency of chewing beans. Because chewing beans, I think, tells me a lot about the coffee. And whenever I do that, it just gets stuck in my throat, right? That's life.
That's life.
Yeah, good.
I'm going to do the same, because I saw the episode yesterday as well.
Okay.
And I always do it room temp too, because it's just easier. Yeah. I used to do it because I used to brew Kono.
Oh, okay.
And Kono, you have to like pleat the...
So what Iohan is referring to as a previous episode with Alexander in Bucharest, where he basically just used a...
I'm obviously very bad at it, as you can see. So.
He was better at it.
He was much better.
But rinsing paper filter is something that we talked about a lot here, and some people do it in hot temperatures, others in cold temperatures. Some people don't do it as well. And we are kind of quite curious about that, right? Obviously, there's different ways to do it. And from what I've been tasting in this series so far, I think at least with the April paper filter, it seems it matters a little bit less. As in, like, the cups still come out really nice in like a wide range of different temperatures.
I don't think you necessarily really have to even rinse. I just like doing it.
Yeah.
I feel like it just gives me peace of mind.
No, for sure.
I feel like whenever you don't rinse with some other paper filters as well, they'll absorb slightly different amounts of water.
Oh, true though. Sure.
Throughout, like every time you brew, so you'll just have like major inconsistencies there.
That's true. And we'll see, we're using the April Glass Brewer here, right?
Yes.
And you obviously have access to all of them, so
I do.
I'm assuming you have a reason for this.
Yes, I will. This one was close by, and it looks nice with the glass server.
So it's an aesthetic reason more than anything else.
The thing is, I talked with Patrick a little bit earlier about this, but I actually do brew with the glass brewer for ice, and we did that in the shop as well, because I think this has the slowest flow rate.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of helps with ice, because you need more extraction.
Definitely, and it gives a little bit more, I think a little bit more body, a little bit more sweetness, and that just works in the ice.
You kind of
format
need
of
it.
brewing, I think. Yeah, for sure.
So I'm just going to get some ice.
Go for it.
If I really cared, I would probably do a bottled water as ice, but today it's just ice. I try to match about, it's a little bit over, 60 grams.
60 grams of ice, okay.
Because I'm doing a recipe of 180 grams of water, and then 18 grams of coffee. So it will be a 1 to 10 without the ice.
1 to 10 without the ice. I also see you're not using the holder for the...
You know very well.
I know well, but I have to ask him because I have to give him a bit of shit. No.
So I don't know what it is.
Fair enough. So Iohan here has lost a piece of the glass brewer, which is fine in summer, right? And I think again, home brewing is often, sometimes a little bit more random.
But like, quick note, I actually do brew without the base fairly often.
Yeah.
On the Aurea, not an April product, but because it fits really well.
Yeah, sure. And I should say, like, one of the things I always advocate for with the glass brewer is that you actually can do it in two ways, and especially then if you have a tighter server or tighter cup to brew in, where you don't have the circulation, then that gives you a different cup profile.
You get a bit slower flow rate.
So you get a little bit more of a range of applications, pretty much. I think it's quite interesting. That's why glass is often my own favorite, because it's a bit more versatile than the other ones.
Yeah, I really like it as well. I always like clear things to see how you brew.
Oh, sure. It looks pretty.
Yeah. So that's 18 grams of coffee. Ground this a little bit earlier.
18 grams of coffee, a little bit pre-ground. We're grinding fine, medium, coarse.
Well, I think this is like medium.
Yep.
I'm not sure what people's references for coffee grounds. I'm always really bad with this.
Fair point. It looks a little bit, let's say, medium fine, but we'll get you guys some videos on it as well, and you can decide.
Yeah.
But maybe a more interesting question, given that it's ice, do you then, for example, grind finer or coarser, or is it very similar to a hot brew?
I like grinding fine.
Yeah.
Because I think you just need to extract more.
Okay, sure.
Otherwise, I'll updose.
Yeah.
A lot. So whenever we do the 13 recipe for hot, like the normal April recipe, which is 13 to 100.
Yeah.
If you do the same grind size for 20 to 200 and then 100 grams of ice, that also works pretty well.
Sure.
But that's obviously a lot more coffee, so...
Yeah. For sure. Let's try it. You have a thermometer, you're up at 93-ish.
We're at 93 point a little bit. It's okay. It should be 94, but we're
should be 94. Okay.
So for this, I just like to do just circle pours.
Yep.
Because I don't really want it to go super fast.
Yep.
So we'll go up to 90.
Yep.
Because we're doing 89. Because we're doing a 1 to 10.
Oh, sure.
So we'll end at 180.
Yeah, easy.
And I like to wait a little bit longer for this, depending on how fast the drawdown is.
Okay, so that means you're basically observing and looking a little bit. Are you then, let's say, want all the liquid to go through, or what is your cue to kind of...
I kind of like, so now it's starting to almost go through, so I'll probably do it very close to our normal timing, because I don't really like having exposed grounds.
Okay. So that's also a conversation in any kind of coffee brewing where it's like, do you want the grounds to be exposed, meaning that do you want all of the water to go through the coffee bed before you pour again? Or do you want the coffee bed to always be, let's say, covered in water to some degree?
Yeah, and I think I prefer the latter in most cases.
Me too. I think it very much depends on the coffee to some degree, right? But especially when you're working with these washed coffees, you probably want to because you also need a bit more contact time, I would say.
To be fair, we did try a really interesting recipe from Jansen in the cafe show, which was exposed for like a very long time.
No,
that
sure,
actually
that's
tastes
true,
very good.
yeah.
But I'm just not very good at brewing in that way, I think.
Yeah.
And then I'll just let it draw down. It's usually pretty fast for iced coffees, I would say. Like it's never as long as hot coffee.
Hot coffee.
Even if you updose, I think.
Yeah, sure.
Because you use so little water in comparison to ground.
No, for sure. So shorter contact time as well.
Yeah.
And then obviously like a form of dilution, right? Which is going to change the flavor perception as well, right?
Yeah. So the goal is that all of the ice melts. But there's not really anything left over.
Okay.
That doesn't always happen.
And then what happens temperature-wise? Are you down at like, is it cold then, or is it like room temperatured, or?
It'll be like cooler, like fridge temp, I would say.
Okay.
It's usually about like 8-10 degrees, I think. Maybe a little bit warmer than that, depending on how warm it is in your room.
Fair enough.
And how hot the water you're pouring.
Yeah, sure.
But I actually like, we'll get into that, but I like drinking my coffee a little bit warmer, even if it's iced.
Yeah.
I got that from, I think there's a cafe in Kyoto that serve it, like they serve it cold, but they serve it with no ice.
Oh.
And I kind of like that a lot because it's just, you get beverage and not like ice cubes.
Sure. It's better than when it's too cold. I get that.
Yeah. I don't really like having dilution after the fact.
Yeah. So we're like 240 and then we're done.
Yeah, that's actually longer than I expected, which is, I think, good because then we have some contact time.
That's true. I just want to sneak in here. So the roast date on this coffee is, I guess, the 23rd of October.
27th of October.
Oh,
2023. Yeah.
I thought like that was expiration date.
It's roasted in the future.
Okay. No, but it would be like the expiration date would be very long. That was my perspective.
Oh, no. I think
it's me reading this incorrectly. So it's on the 27th. Okay. Which makes it what? 2 weeks old-ish?
2-3 weeks old. Yeah. Oh, no, wait. Yeah, 2 weeks old.
2 weeks old. Is that usually where you drink coffee?
I usually like to wait a bit longer. I actually thought it was more off roast. Just because I bought it 2 weeks ago. So I guess they roasted it almost a day.
Almost when you,
it was bought. And I like drinking it out of just a glass, especially for iced coffee. I'll pour ice in one of them so you can try it.
Oh, cool. Awesome. Do it, you do it your way.
No, I mean, it's...
And then we'll see how it's setting. But I'm quite curious to like compare the two. I am going to be fully transparent here and say that my experience with iced coffees is limited.
Yes. I mean, also just a quick note, like we in the shop, we decided against doing iced coffee, like iced filter coffee, because I don't really like it so much either.
Sure.
But it still does taste pretty good. It's just when you know what the hot is supposed to taste like.
Yeah.
It always feels a bit disappointing, I think. So I always, whenever I drink coffee at home, I always like having smaller cups. So I usually don't fill past halfway.
Yeah.
And this will then be what my wife drinks.
Yeah.
And this will then be what...
So she would drink it with the ice?
Yeah, she likes iced coffee. So very typical ice filter coffee, I think. Like it has the characteristics, but it's a little bit muted.
Yeah, sure.
But the sweetness really comes through.
And I think that's kind of the thing with iced coffees, right? They just get sweeter in a way, right?
Yeah.
Just maybe because they're lacking acidity, depending on how you look at it. A little bit refreshing. I think this is definitely more flavor complex. I think this is get more of the florality of the geisha, so to speak. Like you taste the varietal much better. But this is also kind of refreshing and yummy, right? And I think obviously when you do iced coffees, you're kind of looking to get something refreshing and cold. I guess that's why you want to drink it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's one thing I think Tim does really well too, but like I like Kenyan iced coffees. Yeah. That's actually a very specific thing. If I have a nice Kenyan or Kenyan variety, I'll actually like drinking that iced as well because it is very refreshing. It's kind of like a lemonade.
Yeah, sure. Which is kind of the whole point, even though it's -degrees outside and cold.
I mean, we probably would not do it. I think Tim only does it in summer as well, right?
Maybe, yeah, that's true. Okay, so again, jasmine, muscat, mandarin, a lot of other stuff, stone fruit, bergamot. I think it's a little bit like that, right? It's clearly stone fruity. It's a little bit floral, which is nice. Like overall, a pretty good extraction actually, and not tasting so bad. And I think the water ratio with the minerals is probably quite accurate, as in because it's tasting good.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not
but
gonna
let's see what YouTube says.
I'm not gonna promise accuracy in terms of like ppm, but
No,
I've
sure.
been brewing with this composition of water quite often.
Yeah.
And it tastes pretty good.
And I think that's just a very important note when it comes to water. Like, brew with it tasted first, discuss the content after, right? I think there's a lot of idea about I can't have this ppm, I can't do this, I can't do that. Forget about that because it's all about the content of minerals. It's not just the total amount of it, right? So, test. Every coffee needs different waters, right? And these kind of the small things are really funny, right? Because it's super easy to just, okay, I'm going to do one more drop of this. Let's see what happens, right? So
One of the
kind of interesting.
cool thing they actually highlight is that you can, if you brew enough coffee, you can actually put the drops in afterwards. So you can brew with distilled water. And the whole point is that it doesn't really make much difference when you put it in.
Sure.
So I've actually seen some people do it with espresso as well. If they need more buffer, they'll just put it in the puck.
Yeah, sure. Or even afterwards in the espresso.
Yeah, I've done that.
This is super tasty though. It's one of the better iced coffees I've had, I think.
That's good.
Which is interesting, being that it was like an early morning in Seoul, but like really refreshing, really floral. Shout out to these guys for then obviously making like a good coffee. Geisha from Peru, La Margarita. We didn't mention the farmer. We should mention the farmer. Ivan Salas Solorfano.
Yeah.
Good name also. It's a good name, good farmer. He's in Cusco.
Yep.
Ocobamba, super cool. High elevation. So the thing in Peru is that they have very high elevation coffees. We're talking 1,800 meters plus, which usually means tasty coffee.
Yeah, I've actually a little bit of as opposed to, I would say, Northern Europe, I've had a lot of tasty Peruvian coffees in Asia.
Sure.
I don't think we're in Northern Europe very good at picking them.
Sure.
Maybe there's not a lot of importers that do a lot in Peru.
I think that's the biggest challenge,
but
for sure.
Like Japan and Korea have a lot of very good Peruvian coffees this year, I think.
Yeah.
And last year. It's been pretty good.
Yeah. Super cool. So basically check out coffee from Peru because it's kind of tasty. First iced recipe here at this kind of channel, which is really cool. We always want a little bit of diversity. Obviously, super excited to hear about what you guys think. Are you brewing iced coffee at home? Is this relevant? Try it because it's kind of tasty. I actually really like the non-iced version.
Yeah, this is better now.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's from, I'm enjoying this coffee perspective. Yes. From like a refreshing, still tasty cold coffee. Obviously put some ice in it, right? But I think this is actually like really tasty. If I were brewing this, I would probably split it like you did and have kind of half-half.
Yeah,
because that's kind of a nice way to do it, right?
Yeah.
So with that, as always, we want to thank you guys for watching. Thanks, Iohan, for inviting us to his home here in Seoul.
Yeah, thank you for
always
coming.
really cool. And if comment, subscribe, do the Patreon thing, do all of it, right? I'm telling you to do this all the time, but it's really helpful. We're trying to grow this. We see it's growing, which is really fun, and we really want to see your comments on this, right? Because in the end of the day, it's about me learning some new stuff. It's about you guys learning some new stuff. So let's have some questions and have a conversation about that. So with that, just want to say thank you to Iohan again, and have a good day.
Thank you.
We want to give a special thank you to all of our Patreon supporters. It's because of you that we are able to continue to make these videos. And we want you all to feel free to always come with suggestions and ideas on the content that you want to see, because we are doing this for you and because of you. Thank you from all of us here at April.